And our story today begins with an ordinary cafe in which a couple was sitting, and the lady suggested that the guy break up. Of course, he sits in shock and does not understand the reason for such a drastic decision. But she's not even going to explain the reasons. Is the guy really that stupid? She wants to break up and that's the end of it. He still has some of her things, so she asks the guy to just throw them away and never contact her again. Well, now she is gone. But the boy is not going to let go of the love of his life so easily and asks her to wait. The whole cafe was already watching them quarrel, but the guy still continued to beg her to tell her the reason why she wanted to break up with him. The lady still wasn't going to tell this idiot anything. Isn't it clear that they are breaking up because the girl is already tired of waiting? Her facial expression becomes as arrogant as possible, and she says that the main character still does not have his own house or car, and in addition, he is still studying. He does not want to do anything at all, and that is why they are breaking up. She was no longer a little girl, and she simply couldn't be with a man who didn't even think about his future, so let him take care of himself and she leave. Good luck. The restaurant's patrons immediately started laughing at him because the guy had just been dumped so seriously in front of the crowd that he couldn't even say a word. So this is what a person who was abandoned looks like. Although there was a lot of ridicule in his direction, the main character really couldn't even say a word. And then the action moves to his apartment, and the boy thinks about the fact that he is already 38 years old, and he still lives with his parents in the same city. When he was still a child, he constantly heard that he was a versatile person, and even now he tries hard. But it turns out that no one needs all his efforts and every project goes into the trash. He just decides that it's time to watch a movie and put his thoughts in order. It turns out that he liked films with an actress who looked like his girlfriend. Well, his ex-girlfriend. But even watching movies didn't make him happy because the girl turns out to be right. The main character really behaved like a little child. When suddenly he looked at the clock, which was already 7:30 in the morning, and the guy realized he had spent too much time in this room. Since he collects his things and decides to go for a walk, watching the movie is postponed. After which we are shown a guy with a cool haircut who is calling someone. The main character came to the meeting and immediately asked for forgiveness because he was late, but it was not scary because they themselves had just arrived. Still, the friend decides to introduce that wonderful girl who stands next to him and says that she is his girlfriend. But judging by the expression on the protagonist's face, there was definitely something wrong. While a friend was telling me that his girlfriend was simply incredible and worked as a teacher of Oriental medicine, our boy seemed to see in her the image of his ex-girlfriend and no longer listened to what his friend was saying. All the same, the girl just smiles sweetly at him and says hello. Well, hello, her name is Ryu Soo Jung. It seems the boy was very glad to meet him, and in his thoughts he was thinking that the girl was just a beauty. He even begins to envy his friend because now he doesn't even have a girlfriend. While the main character is thinking that the girl is very beautiful, he decides to tell a little about himself. Now he is studying to become a civil servant and is already at the 7th stage. But she just smiled in response and thought that it was very cool and probably difficult. The boy simply could not believe that such a beautiful girl as she could talk to him. But the brunette continued saying that if he manages to pass this stage, it will be just great. One day he will be rewarded for his efforts. After the lady wished him good luck, the boy was simply shocked because until that moment, no girl had ever said such kind words to him. It's surprising because they just met, and the guy was already happy to communicate with her. He said thank you for her praising him so much. Suddenly his friend asks her not to embarrass the main character so much. After all, he managed to pass all the exams the first time, which made the girl even more shocked. Still, the guy decides to remind her that she was very worried before this meeting, and even chose a suitable image. But she just didn't understand that her boyfriend didn't like it, because these were the most fashionable things she ever owned. Now absolutely everyone wears them like that. While he was trying to explain to her that it was better to go to a cafe, because until that moment she had not taken such things, our main character simply looked and realized that this girl was simply ideal for him. Suddenly a strong wind starts and the girl says that she did it on the advice of her friends, who knew that she should have gone to the cafe as soon as possible. Still, they start a conversation about the fact that she should no longer listen to the advice of her stupid friends and wear the looks that she likes. Suddenly he asks them to wait a little, after which he starts clicking something on his new iPhone. The boy somehow got nervous and said that he urgently needed to leave for very important matters. They could talk for now, and he would return a little later. The main character pretended that everything was fine, but in fact he could not understand what kind of suddenly important call came to his phone. Since they are just standing here anyway, the girl decides to offer to go somewhere. Of course, the main character simply cannot but agree with such a beautiful lady. Now he seemed to have a date with his best friend's girlfriend, but judging by his facial expression, the guy was completely happy about this situation. While the boy was in his thoughts, she thought that something was wrong with him, and that's why he had to return to reality. It seemed to the girl that the boy looked somehow devastated, but he simply began to make excuses that he was too tired. In these cases, she has an excellent remedy to remove his fatigue, but the main character does not understand what she is talking about. Here it is, a little warm-up after a working day, and together with such a beautiful girl like her, now our boy was definitely in seventh heaven. But our boy felt strange because the girl's voice sounded like a demon sitting on his shoulder. But still, he just smiles at her and says that he managed to rest a little after a hard day. Having learned that the guy felt better, the girl began to sag with joy that she could help. Meanwhile, he continues to tell us that it was on this day that the girl made a good impression on him. But only the actions are rewinding a little earlier, because there was already one girl who made a strong impression on him. That day was the last time he was able to see her, after which he returned back to his hometown and found a model on the internet that looked exactly like her. It turns out that the main character also has his own oddities, because he constantly loves to find actors and models who look like his friends. After which a whole year passes, the nurse asks the guy if this is his first time in this place, and if so, they will have to conduct an examination. The guy complained of terrible pain in his back. He was simply in shock because it was very early, and there were 4 other patients in the hospital besides him. Finally, it was time for the main character to enter the room after the doctor shouted his name, Go Chang-hyun. But still he was embarrassed by the strange looks of other patients. He needed to get into the ward as soon as possible before the grandmothers gobbled him up for a place in this line. Walking into the office, he is met by a girl who is glad to see the main character again and is interested in his well-being. And our boy also said hello to Soo-jong. He complains that he strained his back. This rarely happens, but this time she was very sick. The matter was bad, but the doctor was much more interested in how exactly he damaged it. It seems that when the main character was carrying books, that's when this happened. It's clear that the girl was very happy to see him again, but suddenly something caught her attention. The main character was sitting with a terribly bent back, and the girl could not believe that back pain was causing him so much pain. But just look at his face. I don't know what textbooks he was carrying there, but the fact that the pain was hellish was immediately clear. The boy remembers his habit of finding celebrities similar to his friends, and now a girl with blue hair decides to examine him a little. But the main character was attracted to something completely different. After all, the girl was incredibly beautiful, and no celebrity could compare with her. But still, now was not the time to think about the fact that the girl is so beautiful, because he came here to cure his back, so it was better to discard unnecessary thoughts and just undergo an examination. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't take his eyes off her. The girl had such beautiful brown eyes. Suddenly, she begins to notice that something strange is happening to the main character, and thinks that the pain in his back has become much worse than before. He immediately tried to cover his face with his hands, saying that he was fine and the pain was not as severe as it might seem to her, but she still had to examine him. No matter how she asked him to remove his hand from his face, the guy still refused. All this was because he was afraid that she would understand that he liked her. It turns out that the manager told her the same thing, because she accidentally spilled coffee on her things, and that's why she has to wear this strange outfit. The girl simply smiles at him and hopes that he is not going to tell his brother that she is not in sick uniform at work. All the same, the situation was very awkward. Of course, the main character was not going to tell his brother about anything. But as soon as he found himself alone with his thoughts, he realized that he simply could not lose concentration right now. Only every time our boy looked at her, images of various celebrities he watched on TV appeared in his head. How could he even sit so calmly opposite her as if nothing had happened? While the main character thought that he was truly pathetic, the girl said that his brother told him a long time ago that he had injured his back, so why didn't he come earlier? It turns out that all this time the boy somehow managed to endure the pain, but at some point it became simply unbearable, and here he is. The main character thought that the crunch in his back was a normal phenomenon, but his brother insisted on going to get checked. But the girl says that if I contacted her later, there could have been serious problems. The couch for now, and she will prepare everything to examine his back. She begins to do various exercises in order to reduce the pain. As an experienced doctor, she tells him that the pain could not come immediately. This is so. When the guy was just injured, he could still endure it. But now it has become simply unbearable. Using various techniques, she tries to understand exactly the point where he hurts the most, and he seems to like being in this office. When suddenly he turns his head and realizes that now the boy definitely won't be able to get out of here so easily. And yet our boy is a real idiot. Was it really difficult to just lie quietly until the procedure was over? Because it was so simple. Seeing his face, she asked him not to be shy, and if it hurt, he might scream, but the girl with blue hair doesn't understand at all what's really going on here. The boy understood perfectly well that his spine hurt terribly, but he did not dare to tell her about it. when suddenly the girl suggested that he go to a special ward in which they would continue treatment. He, of course, was glad of such an offer, but he only understood perfectly well that behind this door there were many clients who were waiting for their turn. Seeing how worried the guy is, she tells him to discard unnecessary thoughts because doctors receive excellent salaries for helping people. This, of course, was great, but the main character no longer wanted to distract the girl from work and come without a cue. But she just couldn't understand what the hell the guy meant. His health is much more important to her than everyone else, so let him come without a cue. Since they have resolved that issue, the girl asks the main character to get up from the bed and they both go to the therapy room. She warned that the back pain might start again, so it was better for him not to strain too much, but in our boy's thoughts there was only a girl, so he didn't care about the pain at all. She promises that she will help him walk so that he can calmly walk to the therapy room leaning on her. But it seems that something didn't go according to plan, and now the boy found himself in an extremely difficult situation, so the back pain definitely didn't bother him now. Meanwhile, the lady was very worried about him because he fell so sharply, and probably his back now hurts even more than before. The girl with blue hair was already starting to worry that the main character couldn't walk, but he hurries to calm her down. It's just that the pain at some point became so strong that he simply couldn't stand on his feet. She just asked him not to worry about this, and she would now help him get up, but our boy was only thinking about how beautiful the girl was. Suddenly, she called him part of the family, and the main character asks his brother if he really experiences exactly the same feelings when he is next to his girlfriend. But even being part of the family, he couldn't do anything at all because the girl had already met his brother, because he was much cooler than him. Of course, the boy was talking to his second personality, which said that he would never become as special as his brother. He understood this perfectly well, but his stupid head still gave him false hopes that he could start dating this girl. Although all the same, it was really stupid because such a serious girl like her would be completely uninterested in such a mediocre person like him. While the main character was thinking about what an idiot he was, they had just arrived at the right room. Of course, they didn't have much time left, but still, don't let him feel uncomfortable in this situation. Since they are already in the ward, the girl asks the guy for permission to continue treatment. Seeing how scared the boy was, she asked him to calm down because this office is completely closed from prying eyes. It seems that the author of this video also started to have back pain. How can you make an appointment with this girl? But suddenly the main character is even more afraid because the lightsaber could be activated at any moment. But that's okay. Of course it's okay. Just look at her face full of horror after she found out that this guy is a fan of Star Wars. Of course, the guy is simply in a panic and doesn't understand what to do now that his biggest secret has been revealed. Perhaps it would be better to reschedule their therapy session for another day. But no, everything is fine. The movie continues. The girl just put her hand on his shoulder and said that everything is fine. It turns out that she fully expected that he might turn out to be a Star Wars fan. This had already happened to previous patients, so he had absolutely nothing to worry about. She was used to strange clients. She's a doctor after all, even though watching Star Wars is not a treatment. But I still have a couple of questions. He's generally aware that his lady love is watching Star Wars with her patients. The girl with blue hair was a true master of her craft, so don't let him worry and then she too can work calmly. At first, the boy said that he understood everything she was telling him, but as soon as she was about to continue warming up, the main character again began to scream like a slaughtered pig. He just wanted to know how long this therapy would last because he still had a lot of things to do. The girl with blue hair only says that the situation is much worse than she could imagine, so the session may take quite a long time. He just continued to scream from terrible pain in his back, but she asked him to be strong and endure. The main character was just lying on the couch and trying to understand what the hell was going on here. The boy was going to think about something sad, so that such a situation would not happen again. But as luck would have it, a picture of him watching the movie Star Wars with a new cast pops up in his head again. It turns out that he sat in front of his girlfriend and asked for forgiveness, but she was extremely dissatisfied because he once again failed the exam for which he did not even try. Of course, he understood perfectly well that he couldn't cope, but he promises that he will definitely write the next one much better. All the guy wanted was to make the girl happy by passing this exam, but judging by the expression of the angry mother, when you once again brought a bad grade from school, she was not happy with the result. Okay. After all, the girl understood perfectly well that in fact the main character tried to pass this exam, but since he failed, he should receive an appropriate punishment for this. In such cases, she makes the most smug face and tells the boy to take out the cards. Now they will play poker and the loser will go wash the dishes. Still, she just couldn't believe that this was really her boyfriend. On the one hand, he was so pathetic, and on the other, she liked to play cards with him. The girl really liked playing cards with the main character, but only the actions return back to reality and the therapy continues. Of course, it was simply terrible for the main character to be here, and therefore he tried by all means to leave as quickly as possible. But damn, this girl doesn't care at all that the guy is acting so strange. The guy still can't understand what the hell is going on. Some lady who was his brother's girlfriend was trying to cure his back. But it turns out she hasn't finished her therapy yet, so the guy will have to sit in this office for a little longer. And she still decides to ask why he brought a sword from Star Wars with him. Is he really such a devoted fan of this universe? Because of this, all this time the girl has been unable to properly diagnose him and help him recover as quickly as possible. Still, she found one way to help get rid of this terrible pain. But as soon as she started the next therapy, he began shouting for her to stop the therapy immediately. But she only says that she is going to cure the main character by any means, and if she can definitely make sure that his back doesn't hurt anymore. She simply could not allow the boy to have health problems, because now he is a member of her family, and she also swore an oath that she would save people's lives no matter what. If suddenly the main character is in so much pain, he can simply close his eyes and try not to think about therapy, then it will pass much faster. Still, he tried to listen to her advice. But whatever one may say, he still understood perfectly well that his brother's girlfriend was right now trying to cure him of back pain. For him, it was real madness because as soon as he closes his eyes, he clearly sees himself playing cards with a girl with blue hair. This was all very cool, of course. But still the boy understood that he needed to return to the real world, otherwise his back would never be able to fully heal. Again? The girl understands that this will be quite enough for her to make the correct diagnosis. But why the hell is she still continuing to carry out her therapy on him? What the hell is she even doing because she said that she can already diagnose him? At one point, the main character still understands that in fact the situation is completely out of control, and now something has happened that cannot be corrected. Here it is, the face of a man who has just done a real stupid thing. If his brother finds out, he will definitely send him to the next world. The main character immediately wanted to rectify the situation and was going to help her clean everything in the room. But she told him to sit and rest because he shouldn't strain himself at all right now. He still felt absolutely terrible for causing so many problems, but she warns him for the last time that his back is too painful. It's better for him to lie down and rest while she cleans the room. Nevertheless, the main character still feels guilty towards the girl, so he decides to at least simply ask for forgiveness for his action. But there was nothing wrong with that, because she always has some strange clients, especially since she and the main character are family, so it's no big deal. After the fascinating story that they are now one family, the main character was touched to the depths of his soul. After which she asked him to wait a couple of minutes and she will return soon, and the main character decided to think about the fact that he should behave like a real man. He just couldn't believe that he was actually going to play cards with his brother's girlfriend, and also this damn therapy. Does he really expect that if they are a family, then she will be able to simply forgive him? After all, he was the one who tried to play cards with her. It seems that the voice of conscience began to haunt the main character. At this moment, our boy realizes that he is terribly short of air, so he decides at the speed of flash to quickly get out of this damned hospital. That is why he ran away, and now thought that coming here was the biggest mistake of his life. Meanwhile, a lady with a short haircut was walking through the hospital and trying to understand what kind of strange sound had just echoed here. While she was diligently trying to solve problems with her image, suddenly she stumbles upon a boy. Of course, out of fright, the main character begins to scream like crazy, cursing everything in the world. After such a terrible scream, she falls to the floor and the ring falls off her hand. It seems that this is a sign. While he was coming to his senses, he was trying to understand why the hell this lady had suddenly appeared on his way. Still, the girl tries to explain to him what is really going on here, but only a few seconds later the guy realizes that she fell to the floor because of him. The boy tried to ask her forgiveness because there was a misunderstanding, but suddenly another nerve was pinched in his back, and now he was just in terrible pain. Of course, she doesn't know that his back hurts and therefore says that if he doesn't help her, she will immediately call the security. But he didn't want to do this, and therefore tries to apologize to the girl for causing her so much inconvenience. Still, he tells her that his back hurts terribly, and that's why he screams so loudly. Suddenly, he begins to talk to himself, and asks why today he constantly gets involved in some kind of story, but she cannot understand what the hell he is talking about. She becomes interested in who this guy is, and he says his name Chan Hyun. Suddenly, the girl was called, but when she was about to open the door, she noticed something strange on the door handle, as if someone had spilled sweet soda. Meanwhile, the action moves to that girl with blue hair and her boyfriend, and he was wondering how the girl was feeling today. It seemed to him that today she plays cards much better than before, and even the girl herself is surprised at this. The guy simply couldn't understand the reason. Was it really because they hadn't played cards for a long time, or maybe because he hadn't used his signature move for a long time? He couldn't understand what was happening to her. While playing cards, the girl behaved too strangely, and suddenly she called him by name. Say anything terrible. She just asks that they stop playing regular poker and start playing an improved card game. Since his girlfriend asked to play cards with her, he simply cannot refuse. So a new round begins, but it still seemed to him that there was something wrong with the girl. She, of course, denied it in every possible way and said that in fact she really liked playing cards with her boyfriend. Well, since she says so, he remembers about another secret technique that he has not used for a long time, namely the strongest combination of cards that she simply cannot reflect. So far, the guy was trying to praise the girl because she was very good at choosing the right combinations and making moves only at the right moments. And so they finally finished their game of cards, and he, as a winner, decides to drink soda. After all, he decides to ask her about the hospital where she works. She was there today. He asks about his brother who was supposed to come to her today. After all, he turned out to be a real stubborn person, and so he threatened him that if he did not go to the hospital, he would drag him by force. He was only interested in his condition and how she treated him during the reception. The girl with blue hair was simply silent at first, but then she decided to start her story. Suddenly, she just starts saying that her boyfriend is just an amazing brother who worries about his little brother. While he was trying to understand what she meant, the actions were transferred to the main character, who thought that today he had simply the worst day of all that he had ever had. He was sure that Ryu would tell his brother everything, and then he would come to deal with him. After which he is about to fall asleep, when suddenly the screen on his phone turns on and he gets scared that it will be a message from his brother. He didn't even look at the screen and already understood perfectly well that it was his brother calling him. Maybe he should just explain everything to him and then they could remain good bros. But the main character simply could not imagine how he would explain this whole situation. It seemed as if this could only happen in some kind of manhwa. Obviously, if the girl has already told him everything about playing cards, he won't even listen to him, so there's nowhere to go. Now he can say goodbye forever to the most beautiful girl in the world because they will never meet again. After which the phone suddenly stops ringing, and this scares our boy even more. His mind seemed to be completely cleared after viewing the missed calls, and he was now even thinking about calling his brother back. But he is a coward and therefore could not do this, so the main character decides to change his image and go for a walk around the city. And as always, the guy was simply going to avoid this conversation because he perfectly understood that this would not lead to anything good. Arriving at a familiar place, the main character was simply shocked by the number of people sitting here. He once came here with friends during university. Nothing has changed here at all. Suddenly the waiter comes up to him and asks how many friends came with him, but he replies that he came alone. Since the main character was here completely alone, he invites him to join a person who is also sitting alone. Surprisingly, this turns out to be the same girl who was in the hospital. It turns out that doctors also like to sit in a cafe in the evenings and drink a few drinks. The main character was simply shocked when he saw the lady. It seemed like it was already night and she was already drinking drinks, and what should he do now? Because he won't be able to just ignore her. The boy decided to think about asking her for forgiveness, but suddenly the waiter warned her that another person would join her. He turns out to be very polite and explains the situation. They just didn't have any more empty seats, so he wanted to sit at the same table with her. Having carefully examined the face of the main character, she still remembers him and makes a very surprised face. The girl was terribly embarrassed because of her, his back now hurt much more, but he also asked for forgiveness for so suddenly appearing on her path. But she says that everything is completely fine because his back hurt, so he can be understood. She is only interested in his well-being. After such a long stay in the hospital, it goes without saying that he felt much better and the lady was happy about it. Of course, the boy was probably minding his own business, but it seemed to him that the lady was drinking too many drinks. But it turns out that today this girl had a great goal, to drink as many drinks as possible. She tried so hard, and now she was offended to hear that the guy simply refuses treatment because there is only one life and you need to take care of it. And what's most offensive is that the guy left her at the moment when they were already engaged. Even when she told this story to her friends, they did not believe that it was true. How well the main character understands this girl, he just had a rather similar situation. The boy tries to somehow maintain the dialogue and thinks that most likely the guy is sorry, and that the red-haired girl needs this consolation now. She was very beautiful and took her work seriously, so she could still meet her prince on a white horse. She begins to tell him various interesting facts about herself. For example, her name translates as the sun, and with such an interesting introduction, we will probably end today's video. Thank you very much for watching. Like it so that the new part comes out as soon as possible.